A while ago, I reviewed the excellent MDF terrain from Warcradle Studios, and whilst it's designed for Wild West Exodus, it will fit in a number of different game settings. One thing that sets it apart from other MDF terrain is the engraved detail, which makes it look a lot less flat, and even after painting, still shines through. So today I'm going to show you a simple way to paint them that anyone can achieve. First, we have to prime the whole thing black. Now, you can use a spray can. However, on the day I'm filming this, it's pouring down with rain outside, so I thought I'd use my battery powered airbrush that I reviewed, which you can see here. It only costs £30 and it's perfect for getting base coats and primer onto models. Also, because it's battery powered and rechargeable, you don't need to have it set up permanently like a full airbrush kit, so it's great for those where hobby space is a premium. I'll put a link in the description if you're looking to pick one up for yourself. Next, I took Model Air White by Vallejo, and again, using the airbrush, I gave the whole model a zenithal prime from above. This really helps to lighten the area to take brighter colours, but also helps the engraved recesses to stay black. You can do this with a white spray can too, or you can do it by dry brushing, but again this little airbrush is super useful. I also picked out certain areas like the metal beams and the metal roof panels that I wanted to be even lighter. Once this was dry, you find the white colour fades to a little more grey, so again I took the Model Air White by Vallejo and highlighted specific areas. Here I focused on the roof tiles and also picked out some random wooden panels on the walls and on the floor, which help give some variation in the colours later when we come to paint it. You don't need to be super careful here as you're just lightening certain areas, so dry brushing here is also an easy alternative to using the airbrush. Now it's time to get some colour on the piece, and after experimenting with washes, inks and thinned down paint, I found the easiest way was to use contrast paints from Citadel. I picked 3 shades of brown and started with Agaros Dunes. I picked out random wooden panels to paint with the contrast paint, and because the areas are so well defined, it's more like colouring in than painting a model. Just try and not overthink which panels to do, but try and get about a third of them done. Don't forget to do the sides of the roof and the porch too. Next I took Gorgrunt Fir, another Citadel contrast paint, and repeated the same step, randomly filling in wooden panels around the terrain piece until I'd covered roughly another third. Again, don't try and overthink where they need to go. After that, I took the darkest of the 3 brown contrast paints and used Wildwood to fill in the remaining wooden panels. It's best to start with the lightest and work to the darkest, as if you do go over any edges, you can cover up the mistakes with the darker contrast paints. Once it's all covered, it should look something like this. On this particular terrain piece there was a brick chimney, so I mixed roughly 3 parts of contrast Gryph-hound orange with 1 part of Gorgrunt Fir to get a brick colour. Just paint this over the brick areas and the chimney pots. In the next step I picked up Iron Hand Steel from Citadel and thinned it down to paint the metallic areas, such as the roof panels on the porch and the steel beams of the main building. I also picked out any metal brackets on doors and struts, as well as window frames, along with the ridge along the top of the roof. Once you've done this, the building is beginning to come together. I then went onto the roof tiles. You can choose any colour that fits your table, however I wanted to keep it quite neutral, so I went for Storm Vermin Fir, again from Citadel, and I thinned it down and covered the tiles. This just needs to get the area covered, and we'll be washing it over later, so don't worry about it being too neat and perfect. On this piece there are a few cables on the building, and I wanted these to stand out a little, so I used Mephiston Red from Citadel on one of them, and then used Moot Green, again from Citadel, on the other. In the next step, I used Warplock Bronze from Citadel to pick out some of the metallic areas, just to give some variation. I used it on the gauge and the cable clips, but also picked out a few areas around the building just to mix it up a little. Now at this point the building is pretty much complete, however I decided it was a little bright for the dark look that I wanted, so I took a large brush and applied Agrax Earthshade Wash from Citadel to the entire building. This helped to blend together the browns, dirty up the metallics, and also make the building look a little older and weathered. On the larger areas such as the roof, I took some kitchen paper and dabbed the area so that there was no pooling of the wash, and also to hide any brush strokes that might get left behind. Make sure you get into the edges too and then leave it to dry. Lastly, I again took the red and green and just quickly highlighted the cables again to make them stand out a little and the building was complete. And that's it. Nothing too technical, and it should be easy enough to complete even for beginners to painting. The Warcradle terrain is really well designed and produced, and as you can see here with my Malifaux models, it really can be used in multiple systems. I've also built and painted the gin distillery too, and I still think that this is the best MDF terrain I've used. I also have some of the new Dunsmouth terrain from Warcradle to take a look at, so why not subscribe to the channel to see that in a future video very soon. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it, and if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month, and there is lots of different tiers and bonuses which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.